Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Eclassopedia. Myself, Daljit Kaur from Commerce Faculty on Eclassopedia. I have expertise in accounts, economics, and business studies. Today, we are going to pick up a topic from IGCSE 9th grade economics, that is your demand. Now, first of all, we should understand a basic difference between the three terms, which is need, want, and demand. Now, when it comes to need, it means that we actually want that particular product, plus we need to have the resources to actually buy that product, which is lacking in this case. But when it comes to want, that exactly means that we actually want that product, plus we do have the resources also to buy that product, plus there is something which is we still are thinking, but we are not buying that particular product because of certain reasons. So you are still not convinced to buy that product. But when it comes to demand, demand means you actually want the product. You do have the resources also to buy the product. And now you have decided to actually buy the product. So when you have actually decided to buy the product and you do have the resources also, that is what is called as demand in the market. Now, this is also considered as effective demand when it comes to the supply side of your market. Now, always your suppliers will always consider effective demand before actually going through the production process. Okay. Now, we are moving towards the types of demands. When it comes to the types of demands, we have only two types of demands. One is called as individual demand, and another is called as a market demand. Now, let us know what exactly the individual and market demand means one by one. When it comes to your individual demand, here we are talking about a specific person's demand for a specific product. So let's say if I consider an example where your Mr. X is demanding 20 chocolates a day. Now, in this case, what I'm doing is I have a specific person about whom I'm talking, and I have a specific product also about which I am talking. So in this case, whenever you are talking about a particular individual person's demand, according to the specific product, we consider it as an individual demand. Now, moving on to the market demand. Market demand means that I'm talking about the total demand of that particular product which everyone is consuming in the market. So, as an example which I took for the individual demand, there was only Mr. X who was consuming 20 chocolates, right? But it's not that he's the only one who is consuming these chocolates in the market. There are number of people who might be consuming the same chocolates. So here, if I consider the total demand of the product according to whosoever is actually consuming it, that total demand is considered to be as a market demand for the product. Clear? Now, once we have understood the meaning of what is individual demand and what is market demand, now it comes the concept of schedule and your graph. Now, when it comes to schedule in economics, that means we are presenting a concept in a tabular form. And when it comes to graph, that means we are talking about explaining a particular concept in the forms of graphs, like in the forms of curves. Now, as I said, schedule means it's a form of tabular presentation. So here, when I'm supposed to talk about individual demand, here I'll be talking about the price of the product and I'll be talking about the demand of the product. Now, when it comes to the price, we know that your demand for a particular product depends upon the price that a person is actually asking for. Now, in this case, let's say when the price of the chocolate was 1, the person was demanding it 20 chocolates. Now, if I have increased the price from 1 to 2, the demand has reduced to, let's say, 15 units of chocolates now. Now, in this case, if you see, there is a reverse relationship between the demand and your price of the product. Now, this reverse relationship is exactly called as a law of demand. So, in the other terms, you can explain law of demand as a negative relationship between the demand and price of the product. Now here, if I consider the individual demand, that means I am talking about Mr. X's demand only for a piece of chocolate, right? So this is what we're going to talk about, the tabular form of individual demand presentation. Now, when it comes to the graph presentation, through this tabular form only, we are going to prepare the graph for the individual demand of Mr. X for the units of chocolates. So always on x-axis, we present the demand. And always on y-axis, we present the price. Now let's say the price is 1 and 2 here, whereas your demand is 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. Now, if I have to make a graph, let's plot the points on the graph. Now, at the price 1, the demand of your chocolate was 20 units. Now, when I'm increasing the price to 2, the demand has fallen to 15, somewhere over here. Now, if I'm connecting these two dots, what I get is my individual demand curve. Clear? Similarly, when it comes to market demand now, in this case, again, we have to explain this market demand in the concept of tabular presentation also. Tabular presentation, as we said, is also known as a schedule. So in this case, it will be like price of a product is given to you. Now, I have to consider the demand of all the individuals to make it a total of market demand. So let's say here, I am talking Mr. X's demand. I am also talking about Mr. Y's demand. And I'm also talking about Mr. Z's demand, right? Now, in this case, whatever will be the total of these 3 people consuming the chocolates in a day will be considered as your market demand. For example, at price 1, if Mr. X is consuming 5 chocolates, Mr. Y is consuming 2 chocolates, and Mr. Z is consuming 1 chocolate, so the total becomes 8. Now, as the price increases, Mr. X is consuming only 4 chocolates, Mr. Y is consuming 1, and Mr. Z has stopped consuming it. Now, in this case, what exactly has happened to your market demand is, again, that is falling when the price has increased. Now, this is what exactly the law of demand speaks about. Now, similarly, we have a price now in the tabular form. We have a market demand in the tabular form. Now, we can easily prepare the graph. We just have to plot. So here, it's always price on the y-axis and it's always demand on the x-axis. So here, it's 5, it's 6, 7, 8, and so on. Similarly here, it's 1, it's 2, 3, and so on. So here, if you see, the price is 1 and the market demand is 8. So somewhere over here, Similarly, when the price has increased to 2, the demand is only 5. So somewhere over here. Now, if I connect these two dots, what I get is my market demand. So this is how we can explain the concept of individual demand and market demand with the help of schedule as well as with the help of diagram.